Have you ever worked the entire day only to realize that you haven't actually done anything? It happened to me many, many times. I was drained. I would look at my to-do list and see that I hadn't really made progress on anything meaningful. And I didn't even need to be in half of those meetings. I could skip probably a third of them and nothing would have changed. So for the longest, I thought that meetings were just part of the job. Just something that you have to deal with if you work in tech or any corporate roles. But eventually, I started noticing a pattern. Some meetings were just quick updates that could be just written in a one short message. Other meetings had no agenda and people would just keep talking in circles. And then there were some kind of zombie meetings that people put up like a year ago every week, and everybody had to attend, but nothing important was really discussed in those. I still remember that day when I had 7 back to back meetings. I don't know how it happened. There was a town hall, I had to onboard a new member, just daily calls with the team and other stuff. And by the end of the day, I realized that I hadn't even opened my EDE and I hadn't written a single line of code. But the real deadlines, they still waiting. They don't take those meetings into account. And it's not just me. Studies show that on average, employees spend about 31 hours a month on unnecessary meetings. That's just an entire work week in a single month. And the tough part is it's not only about hours and meetings. Research shows that it takes about 23 minutes to refocus after interruption, which means even a quick meeting can wipe out an hour of deep work. So that's why many of us feel busy all the time but not actually productive. So, not all meetings exist because they were absolutely necessary. No clear goal? The default solution is let's have a meeting. Someone set up a recurrent check-in last year and everybody just keeps joining and saying the same updates that they've already said in the previous meetings. And there are also fear of missing out invites when people invite everyone just in case. And suddenly you just sit half an hour muted, wondering why you're even there. I'm not trying to say that every meeting is bad, but when they are created out of habit, laziness, or fear, they pile up until your calendar isn't even yours anymore. So at some point, I had to admit it that I wasn't protecting my time. I was letting other people fill my calendar for me. So I started experimenting. I didn't change everything overnight. It was small changes here and there. I was looking at what my colleagues were doing and how they were protecting their time. And I tested a couple small changes. So when an invite came in with no agenda, I would ask, what's the goal of this call? And more often than not, people realized that it didn't need to happen. Or they would structure their thoughts and bring up the agenda so the call actually felt meaningful and it felt like we're actually solving something rather than just brainstorming on the spot without knowing what needs to be done. Then I started pushing back on updates, so instead of spending 30 minutes in the call when everyone gives a tiny update, I suggest that we drop this update in a doc or chat. And nobody complained, most people actually liked it. So once I got more confident, I started questioning recurrent meetings, some weekly check-ins when everyone repeat the same stuff. I suggested that we make them bi-weekly, and the surprising part that the team barely noticed the difference. And eventually, I started to protect my calendar more aggressively. I would batch the meetings to the morning, so I would have afternoon to actually focus and do some deep work. And when I realized that I'm not needed at the meeting, I would politely decline, and 9 times out of 10, nobody wouldn't even notice that I'm not there. So after I started doing those small steps, my calendar finally had some breathing room. And what surprised me is that nobody said anything, the projects were moving, the deadlines were met, nobody missed me. The only difference is that I had more energy and I could focus on the things that really matters. So not every week was perfect, but I remember that I started having more weeks when I had less meetings than before, and I actually felt it. I would block out afternoon for focus work, no interruptions, no calls. It actually felt like I have some time to focus on deep work. It was about 3 hours, which was amazing. And by the end of the day, I felt accomplished instead of drained. So what I learned is that cutting meetings is not about avoiding work. It's about making space for work that actually matters. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with meetings, that's how you can start. Ask for an agenda before accepting. No agenda probably means there's no need for the meeting. Replace updates with written summaries. Most status updates can be handled in a chat, email, or written message. It saves everyone's time. Challenge recurring meeting. Ask, do we still need this weekly check-in? If not, cut it in half or make it bi-weekly. Batch your meetings. Keep them in one block so you have enough time for focus work. Be honest when you're not needed. If you're not adding value, politely decline. Most of the time, nobody would mind. So if you haven't tried any of the methods that I described in this video and you feel overwhelmed with meetings, here's my challenge for you. This week, skip just one meeting that you don't need and use that hour to move something important forward. So what actually matters is not how many hours you spend in meetings. It's what you actually build with your time. So if you want more videos on productivity, motivation, or building a career that you'd be proud of, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.